Hey guys, so here we are in our Facebook group, and in true transparency, I want to tell you that we still have a lot on the go with the launch, and so we're not anywhere near where we want to be with this group. It's going to be very slow and quiet in the beginning, but that's going to give you some amazing opportunities to have access to us, but also to help shape the group. So I noticed a really great question today from Francis, and I thought, you know what? This is an amazing question and one I get a lot. Really, to be honest, it's why we totally created the Win the Hour, Win the Day Academy, because I always say everything sounds so simple when you say it. I always use the example of weight loss because 90% of the people have at some point had to drop a few pounds. And it always sounds so simplistic. You know what? Eat better or even less and exercise more. Okay, that sounds simple, no problem. But then when you slap some reality into it, it gets tricky real fast. So that definitely is the case when it comes to productivity and time management, because it just sounds so inspiring when you read the book, but then you think, well, my life is different, or you don't understand all these things come into play. So when I read this great question, what it made me think about is let's do a question of the week. Now, the next few weeks, I am going to be traveling a little bit, so it'll be a little bit spotty, but after that, it's really helping me with the questions you asked to sort of set up what the tone and the agenda of the group will look like. So the people that are new are really going to have some input and hopefully get some results they like. So let's attack this question, shall we? Francis, what do you suggest when you plan your day, but then life happens? Example, I wake up with a migraine, or there's a crisis in the middle of the day, like my pet needs to go to the vet. I can easily get discouraged when things happen, and then it's harder to keep making plans. Your thoughts are appreciated. Okay, so let's just take a quick little look here at a mock calendar I have here. Now, here's the big secret. And again, anyone in the group mostly has read the book, so that's a good start. So I don't have to give you the whole preamble and background. But really, the concepts again are simple in the group, but you may, in the book, you may want to reread certain chapters. But really where it comes down to is if you have your week planned out, and this isn't completely planned out, but if you have your week planned out, life is going to happen for sure. It just does. We're humans and we're living a human experience, and things happen. You get sick, people get sick, cars break down. It's life. But what I found, and all the people I've worked with found, is that in the old days when something happened, it was almost like, if I'm trying to think if I can pull one up. Our apple cart falling over. In the old days when something, threw you at a whack, I always pictured it like an old style apple cart, like a bushel of apples or apple cart like this, an apple cart. I would picture like anything happened that was sort of out of my plan for the day. I felt like the whole cart tipped over and went barreling down the street, and everything was out of control, and it was just chaos, and I was stressed. Whereas what I find now is if something comes up and knocks my day out of whack, it's sort of like I lose an apple or two, I calm down, put it back in, and we're good. So it is a very different experience once you start plotting your time, winning the hour, winning the hour so you can win the day. And so what I would suggest to you is when it's laid out properly and things come up, then you just move them. And you may say, oh, well, the rest of my week is pretty busy. Well, that's fine. But then it's allowing you to reprioritize your week. So it's kind of like, think about like a hospital emergency room. I'm going to see if I can get a picture of that real quick. I'm just doing these things on the fly. Just to give you an idea. This is not something I'm putting. So here we are. We've got some really busy people in a hospital emergency room. So they may have, 10 patients or 20 or something, and then all of a sudden there's a bus accident, or there's anything that happens, and what they have to do is reprioritize all their time really quickly. So what will happen is if we go to this week and we say, look, okay, today, say this is Monday, and something happens, I have a migraine, I'm not well. And by the way, without making this too long, I think that's the right call. Pushing yourself to go to work when you don't feel well is what my mother calls a seat warmer. You've got yourself there, you're keeping the seat warm, but you're not productive. So you're far better served to take that day off and then come back clear-headed and strong the next day. So let's say you're sick and you've got all this stuff to do. Well, then you are very clear on what you have to do. So you say, all right, that copy creation for the book launch, that's hugely important. And you start looking at other things that you might have to move this to here, and you might say, you know what, Larry, whatever, we just wanted to check in on Larry. He's a client because we can look and that's a virtual appointment, but he's doing really well. I'm just going to talk to Larry and move him to here. Or you might say, you know what, it's too much work to reschedule that with Larry. So what we're going to do is we'll take a look at this, the review for the Win the Hour launch. You know what, I wanted to get that done this week, but we can put that towards next week. So you just reschedule it to next week. So you do whatever you have to do to reprioritize your priorities based on the fact that you have less time. And because you mapped out your week and you're winning the hour and you're winning the day, you have a very clear overview of what's happening. And so then you can course correct, and then you can reprioritize, and you can adjust and not be discouraged. But when you're living off, a crazy to-do list, you don't have any idea of proofread, let's say in my case, proofread paperback book, plan social media videos, outline second book, create social media videos. First of all, how long does any of these things take? And then I've called in sick, and now tomorrow I'm coming back and I feel anxious because, of course, I'm going to be living on anxiety and stress because I don't know how many steps are into each one of these things. I don't know how long they take. I don't have them mapped out in my time. I'm not going to be eligible to win the hour, so I certainly won't be able to win the day. And then I'm going on memory, and I'm still recovering from being off from work, and I'm not feeling well. So it just gets to be a hot mess. So that's where you really run into problems, is when you don't have a really tight and clear plan. But if you have it all laid out, that way you can come back. Sometimes you come back from work and you've had come back to work and you had a cold, and I always kind of like those movies where something happens and their memory's wiped out, and then they find notes from their past self or to their future self or whatever. So I always write details in here so that if something happens where I'm away, or sometimes I find you come back after Christmas, you're like, I barely remember what I was doing. What's all this stuff? So everything in here will have very detailed steps to where I am. And of course, that's just short form. I'm going off on a tangent here, but we keep notes in our base camp and all that stuff. But the point of the story is, when all the steps are very detailed and outlined clearly, you are able to come in and properly reprioritize and address your priorities because it's all laid out. Life is definitely going to happen, so you don't need more stress on top of that, because I am here to tell you, when you hit the floor running the next day, feeling twice as stressed, you decrease your productivity immediately, because the stress is like white noise and it just gets in front of your face and you can't see clearly. So I know it's not a simple fix. It is a process of getting better and better at doing this, and we are here to help you. And just keep the questions coming, and hopefully that gives you some insight.